My name is Kristen Solomon, and I am the gallery director at Blackfish, a collective located in the heart of the Pearl Arts District in Portland, Oregon. This month, February 2021, our main gallery features works from Angela Passalacqua and Barbara Black, two of our longtime members. The joint title of their show is Flights of Fancy, Moments of Doubt. Also this month, we have a special exhibition in our back room that's a memorial show to Diane Alkire, one of our beloved founding members. You can see all their exquisite works at the gallery on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. We're open from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. We are doing all we can to keep you safe. We have all the COVID precautionary policies in place, wearing masks, bringing our numbers down, sanitizing things. So we do hope that you will come visit us. But if you still don't feel comfortable coming down to the gallery, you could see all our works online at blackfish.com. Today, I am proud to present a special presentation, The Long Look, which is a artist talk in depth with Angela Passalacqua and Barbara Black, also featuring a special poem from Merridawn Duckler, another member in our gallery.
Art or love equally for Blackfish Gallery, but today for Angela and for Barbara. Enter through the senses. Who can say the moment we fall prey to them? Maybe the eyes, they were first. Their craved tyranny makes look, want to look, and love to look. Our eyes so near what makes us human. The intelligence of the animal can be told by how close the eyes are together, which may doom the goat, but gives love and art a portal, or some would say touch, is where it starts. For we are creatures of sensation and require everywhere a guard to warn, do not touch, as if it's the artwork that's vulnerable and not us. Driven to rearm the statue, to be clasped by what was previously riven. As for the old argument, is it craft to capture the desire? Is it utilitarian to be beautiful? These are academic, in the pit of the vessel where I willingly lie, for love and art equally, vulnerable to surface, as when I was first entered insensibly into heaven and wanted to own one, live in it, bask, bathe, and wear the frame from view to view, saying art has placed this burden on my willing back. Or was it you?
I'm Angela Passalacqua. I'm a narrative painter, and my current body of work really is all about telling fables and storytelling about some very serious matters. The first image I'm going to talk about is entitled, it's the title of the show, Flights of Fancy, Moments of Doubt. And it features the main character in this painting is a young girl, and her origin is actually an old family photograph. And these are relatives back in Italy from around the turn of the century. I don't know who they are, but it's a family member, but that's all lost to history. But she's eating an ice cream cone, and underneath her is a large bird. It's like the bird could be a reference to the Grimm stories where they have the pelican that is kind of their motto, you know, the stork that features in a lot of these fables and fairy tales. But it's underneath her, and the background is dense, it's red, there's a wolf, which I think is the wolf of Roman antiquity, a she-wolf that's barking. And there's an island, the island of Sicily, from whence this little girl came, which is full of all sorts of Greek and Roman artifacts that are still there. And, you know, in addition to that, there are all these characters that are in the background in this painting. There's a unicyclist, there's a waiter, And these characters are chimera, which means that they're they're part human and part animal. And that's a big theme throughout this entire show, is the unity of the natural world and the human world. And it's interesting that I have a fawn that's on a unicorn, and Merridawn in her work mentioned, the goat and the human world. And I had forgotten about that in that poem. So it speaks directly to this. But all these fantastical creatures are in the aid of kind of pushing this narrative forward about all the fables and all the stories that we make up to make sense of our world, and the connection between the human and the natural world and the animal world. That's why I'm drawn to using these chimera, because it unites us. And it unites us, hopefully, in solving the problems that we human beings have caused in the natural world. She's eating an ice cream cone, which is, we all enjoy that. And it's a very particular ice cream that was important to me. It's spumomi, and you don't see it that much anymore. But I sort of grew up having it a lot. And the colors of the palette and the painting sort of reflect the colors in that ice cream cone. And that wasn't deliberate, but I realized that afterwards, that was kind of the motivation for that palette. But, the painting is divided into an upper and a lower world. And, she's rather conscious of this young girl. And there's a hand kind of reaching above her to kind of take her by the hand and escort her through this. And I feel that all these other characters in the painting, the chimera and the waiter that has the flippers on his foot, and the fawn that's riding the unicycle is there to kind of help guard her through all that. All of the works in this current show are oils on board, and I make my own gesso, which is a very absorbent surface, and it gives these paintings a very old and almost like an artifact look, like they're old, but they're actually very contemporary. The next painting I want to talk about is entitled The Gift of Fire Reconsidered. It has a fawn in this painting, which is a half goat and a half man, and he's holding what looks to be a gift of some sort. And he's presenting it, to a fantastical creature, which, it looks like it could be a dog, a many-eyed dog. It could be any number of creatures from ancient past. Actually, this particular creature is based on a 9th century or 12th century Romanesque image on a cathedral in Barcelona. It's where I first saw it. And actually, other artists have used this creature as well. I think Picabia did a number of portraits of this creature in his Transparency series. But this fawn is dressed in 18th century clothing. And I did that deliberately because I wanted it to represent the Enlightenment, where it was a period in time where rational thought was asserting itself and taking over, superstition, and making rational thought a desirable outcome rather than relying on superstition to portray the national world. It was also built on doing good, and it was a high point in civilization. He's carrying this box and he's presenting it to this creature, and there are other birds that are looking at this box also. One of them, an ibis, which is a very ancient bird, and I was referencing Egypt there, is looking quite cantankerous at this box, like, no, we don't want it. It's bad for us. And what is in that box is fire. And that's why the title is called The Gift of Fire Reconsidered. Prometheus gifted mankind with fire, and it's always been seen by humankind as a good, but it hasn't been viewed or taken that way in the animal world. Fire is a destructive and destructive only entity for them. And the idea that this fawn would be presenting this gift is something that they're not quite sure they want to accept. On that box, however, is a Red Cross symbol, which is for healing. And the fawn is standing on an area that looks like it could be a huge continent, but it's a huge landmass. But it's all burnt. I mean, you can see some of the fires in the background, and it's not something that, it's also the idea that humanity can be hurt by fire too, and we all lived through that this past summer here in the Northwest, and well, the entire West Coast really, and Australia before us. Fire can be damaging. So this gift that this fawn is trying to present to the natural world is in the hopes of us all coming together and solving this major problem that we have on our hands that isn't going to go away and is only going to get worse if we don't do something about it. And, there is a hopeful sign. The one bird, the ibis, is looking very cranky, but, there is a bird flying away that is very hopeful. And so hopefully we will come up with something, but we're only going to come up with something if we work together with the natural world instead of against the natural world. This painting is entitled Lupus and Fabulous, and it's the last one in this body of work. I'll explain the title. Lupus and Fabulous is Latin for the wolf and the fairy tale. It also can be speak of the devil. And I meant the reference to actually be, COVID is our own Lupus and Fabula. No one expected it. It seemed to come out of nowhere, but we're all living it. We're all in this fairy tale, whether we like it or not. There is a she-wolf in this painting, and she's really barking and not very happy with the Grecian figure there. And that Grecian figure is Athena. And Athena is the goddess of wisdom and supposedly rational thought. Well, the she-wolf's having none of it. She's very angry, as is the centaur in the lower right-hand corner of this painting, who's looking at Athena like, you're supposed to be so smart. We're in this horrible mess. This, what you have wrought on our world has not been a good thing. And Athena is making eye contact with another figure in this painting, and it's a transient. And I drew this transient actually riding the train home from the gallery one day. And he was such he had such nobility about him and such grace. And he was very, very angry. And I wanted him to be accusing her again in a similar way that the fawn is, but just full of indignation, like, what have you bought on us? You have bought us terrible things, good things, but also terrible things. And now we all have to work together to get us out of this mess. And in the background is Tivoli Gardens in Copenhagen. It's an amusement park. And it was a pure inspiration to Walt Disney to create Disneyland. So the center of the town, where Tivoli Gardens is, it evolves around, it's really close to the center of town, and you see their clock tower that's in the center, which is keeping time. And I meant that to reference that time is running out for us to get on board with solving this problem, all of us. We all have to come together. It kind of, harkens as to what I was speaking about before. And I abstracted the roller coaster in Tivoli Gardens. So it's actually kind of a spiral that's circling around all of us and encompassing all the figures in that painting. And floating along it instead of roller coaster cars are actually Greek geometric figures from antique vases. And they're all rolling on it. And we are still living with a lot of thought that started back in those times. And there's a horse, one of them is running away from Athena. It's a Renaissance horse. And she is atop the Glyptotek in Copenhagen. And it was a wonderful sunny day. And I had gone up there to enjoy the sunshine and see what was up there. And I didn't expect to encounter Athena up there or this Renaissance horse. So I figured that they belonged in this painting, and I needed to reference Tivoli Garden in some way to anchor it, which is what I did. In the left-hand corner, you'll see a stag that has a golden heart. And that's actually Portland's stag. And I didn't realize that until after I put it in. But that stag has a golden heart. And the idea was there that stag was going to bring us all together so we could figure out this problem and a solution to what's going on in our world on both the political level and also in the natural world between human beings and humankind.
Thank you so much, Angela, for sharing with us a little more in depth into your work. Next up, we have Barbara Black. We're really excited. She's going to share a few of her pieces as well. Welcome, Barbara.
I'd like to begin with a quotation that I like a lot and about art making, which I think I have right here. The quotation says, "The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all the true art and science." And surprisingly, that is Albert Einstein. I was so enchanted by that. And certainly my paintings are a mystery process for me. So that made me feel really good when I came across that saying of his. Thought I would like to share it. So the first painting I would like to talk about is titled Past Dreaming. And I chose that one because throughout my fairly long career, dreams have been an important source of my imagery. And in the painting Past Dreaming, I actually saw the wave that's in the lower left in a dream. I was sitting by a window looking out, and I was in a hotel down at the Oregon beach. There were a number of us, and a storm had come up and washed the hotel out into the sea. And I was sitting by this window, and I looked out this window, and amazingly, the sun was shining then on this huge wave that was just exactly the shape I've painted it. And the thought in my mind was, this is the last moment of my life. And I remember that so clearly, although the dream was years ago. Actually, the dream got a little less mortal and ended rather nicely, but I've always remembered that. And water has been a huge element in all my paintings. And it's been there from the beginning. It's been there it's a large element in my dreams. It just reoccurs a lot, and the two, I think, go together. The other elements from my dream that's in this particular painting is on the lower right-hand side, just next to the edge. There's a little house there, and one of the recurrent images in my dreams was either I'd be living in a house or having just purchased a house. At some point I would go upstairs, and there would be an unexpected upstairs, and it was filled with a white light instead of furniture. And I had that recurrent dream for years, but the part that was puzzling was there never was a basement. When I finally had a dream with a dark basement and scary creatures in it, the dream stopped, and I always thought that was interesting. But having been interested in Jungian thought for a very long time, since the mid-'80s, I kind of thought of it as getting in better contact with the subconscious. So when I first got out of art school, my brother came down to my basement studio and said, "Your work looks very Jungian." So I decided at that time, for whatever reason, that I would not explore Jungian thought because I thought it would somehow kind of interfere with my own kind of path towards imagery. So it wasn't till the mid-'80s that I joined the Oregon Friends of Jung, and so my work is very influenced by those thoughts. So I made this particular painting kind of in honor of the dream, and I like, is it the past that's dreaming, or am I past dreaming at my age, or are those my past dreams? And I like the way the title played three ways. The other important image I want to include before we leave this one is the fact that there's what is either a sunrise or a sunset. And I was a little puzzled because there are at least, I think, perhaps 5 of these images that are sunrises or sunsets in the current show. And I thought, what is that about? I've always done night paintings because I love that. In fact, I have one in the show this time. There's a night painting. And so I thought, what's that about? And then I thought, later, after I'd done most of them, it occurred to me, because sometimes I'm the last to understand what I'm up to. Rationally, my inner self knows what I'm painting about, but I don't always see it, sometimes for several years. The next painting I would like to talk about is entitled Flowing Sunset. This was one where I was subjected to way more mystery than I would have liked. I had seen, I think, a photograph with some color that I loved in it because it had a lot of black night. I use a lot of black in my work, and it's not because my last name after I married was Black. It's just I love black, and I love doing black and white work. But it was a photograph with beautiful pale gold and pale green gold colors, but a larger amount of blacks and beautiful grays. And I thought, I'd like to do something with that. I wasn't sure, but I use a lot of images of doorways and windows because I like to think of them as the thresholds from our observed world to other realms like dreams and memory and perhaps spiritual realms. I don't know, it's very mysterious. It's to the mystery beyond. And sometimes it's the imagery of leaving this earth, And so I made kind of a shape that wasn't as rectangular and architectural on the canvas and painted all the rest black. And for several weeks, I had to, since I'm in total quarantine practically, I had to make my kitchen a studio for painting large canvases, which is interesting. So for several weeks, I would look at that and think, what does it want to be now? Because I didn't have specific imagery, I just had color and the idea of an opening. And then one day I stepped in. Lo and behold, it says, my mind said, I'm looking out of a cave. And that was very exciting. So I went back in and I kind of knew I wanted to put a little landscape of some sort, preferably using those pale yellows and green golds, but they turned out orange. I realized that the landscape had a little lake. And so the water could be flowing into the cave. So I went back in and put gesso and made it into water. And then I realized I could have little people looking out of it. And I could also, I love art of all periods. I love cave art and every period except the Baroque, I admit to that. And so, and I've been influenced by all kinds of, including Greece, everything. So I thought, it's a cave. I could put cave paintings on the wall. So I did. They're not very visible. I'm not sure if you can see them very well in reproductions. And then I put 2 tiny people looking out. And then to this landscape where the lake, and then I think there's some mountains across. I'm trying to remember. I'm not looking at it right now. And then up in the upper left, I put a little tiny helicopter to show that this was the whole. I was trying to refer to the whole sweep of the time that human beings have lived on the earth, and hoping in this painting that this will continue. And it was just a marvelous time I had with that painting. It seemed like that I wasn't in charge of it exactly, or at least not my conscious mind. And I just had a wonderful time with it. I still enjoy even thinking about the ideas, but of course my hope is that it's looking at a sky that's lighting up with daylight and not going down to night, because that would not bode well for our human race. There's one other painting that we can show briefly that's called Possible Twilight, and I'm hoping it's not. I had done this earlier, and so it shows sort of a temple from, I think, a bit of a temple from possibly a Greek time, and maybe about the time of Alexander, a little temple at the bottom by always the water that I have in so many of my paintings. And there is the doorway, and so there's not much light inside that doorway. It's into dark, secret places. There's a little altar with a flame, but I don't know where the doorway goes. Then there's almost two kinds of, there's the daylight and there's nighttime in it, sort of a contrast of both. And it says possible twilight, but we're not sure which it is. And I originally started this painting because of a smaller painting on paper, 12 by 16, that I had showed in my previous exhibit when Angela and I were exhibiting. And I liked it so well. I thought, I would like to transform this. And I like it so much, I'm just going to enlarge it. And that will be easy. I won't have all that mystery. Well, that's not how my paintings work. And so it became rather mysterious. And it has a little bit of these structures around the edge and things, of the abstract structures. But other than that, it isn't that reminiscent of the smaller painting. The next thing I thought of was pre-Greek structure in the temple, the small temple there. What could I put in? And so I decided a little airplane. There's a little airplane, if you look above, disappearing into the clouds, barely visible. And that, once again, was the original idea for trying to create a painting that referred to the whole stretch of humankind's existence. This one just goes back to the early Greek period, but it has that implication, and I enjoyed that a lot. The two are very close in that respect.
Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Merridawn. Thank you to everyone here tuning in. We really appreciate your support. If you'd like to learn more about the pieces, we also did a virtual First Thursday a couple of weeks back, and you can watch that recording still on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook, Blackfish Gallery. And you'll be able to also hear Tom Alkire go into a little bit more detail about his wife, Diane's works that we're featuring this month as well. Again, we really hope to welcome you into the gallery. This show will be on until Saturday, February 27th, and we will be here on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. But if you'd like to come on a different day, you can schedule a private appointment. Just email me at director@blackfish.com, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks so much.
if we